Thank you for joining us on our journey here to preserve the history of mixed martial arts. When I wanted to take on this project, I needed help. I brought in one of my favorite matchmakers, Miguel Illiterate, and the MMA detective, Mike Davis. So to do this, we've been able to preserve history. Welcome and enjoy. All right, welcome back, everybody. Lights Out fans. Appreciate you guys being here. Lights Out Podcast. We have another fantastic guest right now. Had him on once before, but this is a different thing. That was about last time when he came near death. This is when he's back in action. Look at this guy hanging out the beach, chilling with sunglasses on, having a great time. Chris, the Crippler Leben, how the hell you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Doing really good. Thank you for having me.
Of course, man. You're extremely interesting always, man. I know Mike has been just sharing some stories about you, and they blow my mind, man. We got to talk about some stuff. So, Mike, go ahead and lead this charge.
Chris Leben, I think if there's anything anybody can say about you, is that you're the real deal, and it starts at a very, very early age. And there's a lot of stories floating around about you, but they've never been I come from your mouth. Like, for instance, like Chael Sonnen tells a story about a famous boat incident involving your family with skiing.
Yeah. I think that's one of the ones he might have bought from me.
Would you mind expanding on that?
I mean, just depends which one. Years ago, I think the story he's probably referring to is when my uncle ran over a couple girls.
Oh, shit.
Well, yeah. So he bought like this old speedboat, and it was like a closed bow boat, but he wanted an open bow boat. So he took a chainsaw and cut the top off. and I remember because they just threw a sleeping bag up front, and they threw us kids on the fiberglass. So my stomach's all fucked up from laying on the fiberglass in the front of the boat. And and he, they were drinking beers and cranking tunes, and they ran straight over a couple girls in an inflatable dinghy. One of the girls couldn't swim. My uncle had to pull her out. We finally got him to shore, and right about that time, he's like, "Please don't sue me. Here's my number. I'll pay for the dinghy." And these are like 20-year-old girls, right? My uncle's like a 40-year-old beer belly dude at the time. Like, obviously, my aunt comes rolling up, and she's got these giant sunglasses. She weighs 97 pounds. She's been in the sun all day. So she takes her sunglasses off. She looks like a fucking raccoon. And this is from when I was a kid. I still remember she slaps the girl and is like, "You bitch, what are you doing with my husband's phone number?" And that's probably the story, unless it was a different one.
Real quick, are you sure you're not from Kentucky or like Southern Indiana? Because these are very like close to home stories. It sounds like, taking chainsaws, cutting boats, running people over beer. That sounds like, I don't know. It doesn't sound like West Coast behavior to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Hey, you haven't been to Oregon then, man.
I've been there, but I don't know. Wrong area. I didn't see that area.
Depends where you're at. Yeah.
Did you join the military at one point?
I did. Yeah. 82nd Airborne. I was a 67 Tango, so Black Hawk helicopter crew chief. Kind of a long story, but I had a couple college offers to wrestle. Unfortunately, when I graduated high school, just because of the way I grew up and stuff, I still couldn't really read. I didn't learn how to read till fucking MySpace came out trying to get laid, and then I figured it out real quick. It's funny how motivation is.
Mm-hmm.
Real
quick before we move on here, how did you get through high school without really being able to read? Well, you just smart in other areas or just figure it out? I mean, that takes a lot of ability. So like,
Well,
That's nuts, man.
I didn't learn how to read, but I learned some extra skills that have actually probably helped me more in life than the reading, to be honest with you.
Oh, absolutely. That's amazing, man. That shows other kind of intelligence to be able to get by without actually knowing how to read, dude. That's nuts.
Yeah. So, and then there's that whole, leave no kid behind type deal. As long as you do the fucking work, they just keep pushing you through. Okay. I mean, I was intelligent. I learned how to read relatively quickly. Once I did, now I read fine. I read all the time. But when you grow up in kind of the position that I did, and everybody kind of tells you you're stupid. They tell you you're never going to be able to read. You start to believe it's true. So, what up, man? So, that's what I thought, for a while. And then once I started doing it, reading on my own, nobody ever sat down with me and read a fucking book, So once I started reading, I picked it up real quick. Spelling, on the other hand, that still needs some work.
Hey, who needs to spell anymore? You just got to get close, and the phone takes over and makes the word right.
Thank God for talk text.
So
tell you that. Thank God.
Really fast, just to try.
Anyway, back to the story. Yeah. So I thought, well, fuck, I'll wrestle for the Army. Then I don't have to go to school, and I can just wrestle. But then once I got into the 82nd, which was, I had to get selected for that and whatnot. They were like, yeah, we're deploying in a year. We need you. We're understaffed. So, you can't even try out for the wrestling team. And, obviously I'm not proud of it. I've done what I can to make amends. I do a lot for the armed services now, but a young 20-year-old Chris Leben from the wrong side of the tracks just drove home one day. Turns out that's not legal. So, got a little trouble. Yeah, man, that's what happened.
Now, when you decided to join the military, did they tell you would be able to wrestle? I mean, was that, or you just thought I'd be able to? I mean,
they told me, yes, they did.
So they lied to you to get you in there, and then they just.
Don't thank me, thank your recruiter, right? I'm sure you've heard that before.
Yeah.
I think the recruiter will tell you whatever you need to hear. So
the okey doke. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
I was just gonna say, Chris, we talked a little bit about the last time, and you just mentioned making amends and stuff. I know that now as an older guy, you got a lot of perspective, but looking back at it, you have you may have PTSD from your youth, like all those experiences of living on the wrong side of the tracks, like you said, is a lot to overcome, man. I mean,
Well, I mean,
did you feel?
If we want to get real serious, yeah, there's definitely, there's some stuff there. I got some issues. Matter of fact, I was going through it yesterday with my old lady. It's just, what are you going to do? Eventually, though, I can't blame my parents for the shit that happened to me when I was a kid. Eventually, I got to take charge, So that's what I've tried to do. Although there's certain things I don't like. I don't like people to touch me ever. Unless you're trying to choke me, I don't want to be touched. That's like an issue that I have. That's from my childhood. And I got a couple others, but for the most part, nowadays I'd say I'm a fairly productive member of society.
Hey, well, first of all, I just want to say, your perspective right there is so good and unique, because I feel the opposite about most people right now. Everybody has an excuse for why, everything happened in their past. They can't do this. They can't do that. Nobody wants to take accountability. And what you said is perfect, man. You have to accept responsibility and go from there. You can't blame shit on what happened, but that's not the way the world is right now. It's pissing me off. I hate it. So you saying that is awesome.
I'd have to agree with you there. Blaming other people ain't going to solve nothing for yourself. You know what I mean?
Exactly, man. I mean, when every time, the best thing I ever did was quit making excuses. Because, man, everything that happens wrong in my life is probably my fault. You know what I mean? After you accept that, you can make it better. If it's not your fault, you can't fix anything. What I mean,
100%.
if I can't fix it, why? It's just gonna be how it is. I did it wrong. I will fix it. And if you can't accept that, nothing good's gonna happen to you. I promise.
You know, and same. If I got a problem with somebody, it's probably a problem with myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I'm letting them piss me off that bad, you know?
Yeah. That's awesome to hear, man.
You know, Chris, you write Chris Leben, you write I'm not gonna say it's a strange line, but it's one that wavers. It's like you don't care, but then you take responsibility for you not caring. Like it's like a code.
I never heard it put that way. I am what I am. I'm a lot different now than I was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 1 year ago. You know, we're always trying to fucking grow and shit, you know. I'm a little rough around the edges. I understand that, you know, but, you know, the past, what's happened, a lot of things in the past, like the military thing, for example, those are things I'm not proud of. But listen, man, it's what happened. You know, and without everything that has happened, I wouldn't be where I'm at.
Well, can we talk about one of your early coaching gigs?
Sure.
So Chris Leben, I mean, obviously he's in recovery now. Miguel and myself are also in that boat. Gets a DUI, ends up going to Hawaii for training camp, comes back, ends up a few days in Calacas County Jail.
Okay.
Where you taught the inmates how to fight.
Oh, who told you that one? Fuck. Yeah,
he does his research.
No, actually, the reason on that particular charge, what had happened was I had to go to. They wanted me to go to England to fight Michael Bisping, but I had fucking moved to Hawaii and bailed on my diversion program. So I had to go back and I had to do like a month, 2 months in jail. I can't remember how long, but it was a little while. And, you know, it's Clackamas County. If anybody's ever been there, it's just fucking a bunch of tweakers, right? Shitty, you know, block. You got 10 cells. They all open up. So you got 20 guys in this 10 by 100 foot common area. And, you know, eventually I got recognized, you know, they start talking to me about fighting this and that. And I'm like, next thing I know, I'm fucking showing them how to fucking finish a rear naked choke. You know, I'm like, you just got to cut the carotid artery. And, you know, it's not about, don't pull on his neck, you know, and I'm giving the basics, you know, and right about the time I'm thinking, fuck, this guy should be tapping by now. You know, I look up and they got that fucking closed circuit camera right there, you know, and I realize, and then he just goes limp and he's out. So I drag his ass in a cell. I lay him down in the bed and he's out, you know, and he was out for a while. He was out for like a minute, which is a long time if you ever choke somebody out, you know. And one of the guys goes, is he going to wake up? And I'm like, oh, yeah. And I'm just thinking in my head, I'm like, dude, I went in here for a month. I'm going to be here for the next 10 years. Fuck. You know? So that was a mistake I won't make again.
God bless you.
That's wild. So your first fight on August 10, 2002 against Justin Terherst. Did you know that your entire life was going to be based around fighting at that moment?
The second it was over, I did. Yeah, man. My coach Robert Follis used to always tell this story. You know, from the first day I signed up at Team Quest, every day when I walked in the door, he'd go, "Hey, Chris, how you doing?" I said, "Did you give me a fight yet?" I was able to fight within like 6 months of starting to train because I fucking every single day, "Did you give me a fight yet?" And he got me that fight with Justin. And I remember just being scared as fuck. I think he was like a Greco-Roman guy, you know, wrestler, had a biohazard tattoo and you know, real tall, big guy. And I was at 205. And I was scared to shit. And I invited everybody I knew. Told everybody I fucking knew in the world was there. And I was just like, what the fuck was I thinking? Long story short, I won. I think I won with a key lock for mount. Shows you how skilled I was. And yeah, that split second, man. I remember the next day, the FCFF, Chael Sonnen's show.
He was the promoter.
You know, that there it was like boards back in the day, you know, not social media, you know, and there was like 8 people talking about me. And as soon as I saw the 8 people I didn't know were talking about me, I was like, this is it. This is what I'm doing, you know, for a kid that was from the ghetto, destined to be a tweaker working at a gas station, you know, fuck, that little bit of attention that I got, man, that was so massive for me. Doing something, I was doing something, you know. Yeah, I was fucking hooked. That was it. I remember I went home later that day, and I told my old lady, I said, I'm not gonna go to college anymore. I was going to night school, you know, trying to be an electrician. And she said, great, you can stay home one day a week. I was like, no, I gotta train 6 days a week, you know. Long story short, that relationship didn't work out, but yeah, that was it. The second I won that fight, it was like, okay, this is what I'm doing.
Wow. So the Pacific Northwest is filled with high-end MMA gyms. It's not just, you know, Team Quest. You've also got you got Charlie's Combat Club up there, Landon Showalter's gym. Like that is a Matt Hume. Like you've got some legit places to train. And your next fight's against one of his students, Bryce Hamilton. That's not an easy fight either.
No, I fought a lot of Charlie's guys.
Yeah.
I fought half a dozen guys from Charlie's place, man. He wanted to beat me bad. Me and Charlie, we're great now. You know, we hit it. We talk on social media every once in a while. Landon Showalter as well. Good friend. Speaking of, I actually just had lunch with Matt Hume last weekend. So that was nice. Cool. Nice. I got to catch up with him. So I stay in touch with those guys. And you're right, man. Fucking, that's a pedigree up there. Obviously that's my hood. So I'm partial to think that they breed better fighters up north.
You can make that argument. Like it's just Matt Hume. That's another guy you went and trained with. What was your experience like with Matt at his gym?
How do I explain it? Matt can come off as an asshole to some people, but he's awesome. He's the best coach there is. He's going to push you to your limit, and he's going to make you better if you can handle it. If you can handle it, you know. I remember when I first started training with Matt, it was shortly after The Ultimate Fighter just came out. And obviously I represented myself as a little bit of a jackass on The Ultimate Fighter. And so the first couple weeks I was in the gym, he didn't say a word to me. Then one day he says, John, you guys, Chris, stay after practice. And we got in the ring and he's like, all right, we're doing body shots. So you Chris, you go with me, you know, and I'd hit him twice. He'd hit me twice, drop me. I'd get back up. I'd hit him twice. He'd hit me twice, drop me. I'd get back up. And, you know, felt like half an hour. How long it really was, I don't know. But he said, all right, go home. Go home, everybody. And then I came in the next day and he gave me one correction. You know, hey, no, adjust here, move there. You know, and to me, that was the world. That one fucking, hey, you're doing this wrong. You know, that method worked for me.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of people might not have come back, but and honestly, I hadn't seen him or really talked to him in years, and so having the chance to sit down and have lunch with him last weekend, man, I got a lot of history with that guy. There's very few people that know more about combat sports than that guy.
Yes. Yeah. He's a genius.
Yeah. The wizard.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolute genius. When you fought for Hitman Fight Promotions, it was Tito Ortiz and Paul Herrera as the promoters. Paulo Gazze was your opponent. Was this like a movie set type situation where they had to fool the commission?
Oh man, good question. So that's some bullshit right there, right? Paul Herrera was the promoter. You remember he's the guy that got crucifixed by Gary Goodwrench and fucking elbowed in the face like 1,000 times.
Hellbows.
Well, yeah. Well, long story short, fighting was still illegal in California at that time. So they had picked the winners, right? Let me tell a little story about what happened at this fight too, because this is a funny story I probably never told. I'm backstage warming up with Robert Follis, and Aaron Brink is in the back, right?
Porno star Dick Delaware.
Yes, and they had hired the Vivid Girls as the ring girls for this show. Aaron had provided them. Well, Aaron's sitting there with his girlfriend backstage. I'm warming up. She pulls a fucking blown glass weed pipe out of her vagina. She's wearing a thong, first off. She pulls it out and starts smoking weed back there. And Robert goes, "What the fuck are you doing? I got fighters back here." And Aaron stands up. He goes, "Don't talk to her like that. She's a lady." Who, by the way, I saw not that long ago, and Aaron has really cleaned up his act. Great
Good.
guy now. Great guy. He's sober. He's got faith, and he's crushing it. So we're proud of him too, because he overcame a lot. But yeah, that was funny. Then they had me fight that fucking dude, and I beat the shit out of him the whole fight. And I think he caught me in like one fucking shitty guillotine that I popped right out of. And then the ref goes, "Don't worry, buddy, you won." And they raised his hand, right? And I'm like, okay, that's what they did with people were getting knocked out. They were waking them up, standing them up and raising their hand. The cops were right there. So they said, no, these are stuntmen. It's predetermined outcomes. Turns out, I find out later, Paul was betting on the fucking fights. He's betting. And then they tried to pay me like I lost. I think Robert lost his shit. We got paid like I won. And then years later, that popped up on my Sherdog record. And I fucking wrote Sherdog like, "What the fuck? Fuck you. You can't put that as a loss on my record." It went away for years. And then somehow that kid got it back on my fucking record. But he blatantly did not beat me, So the whole show was fucking rigged, Yeah, and if I remember, Chael was on the card with me. He fought Babalu.
He says he lost, and he's got it as a win.
Yeah, and I was there. So, if that's what he said, then I'm going to have to,
agree with him. Yeah, he's like, I didn't beat him. But it was a movie, and we had to pretend. Yeah, we covered it in our interview with Chael.
Yeah, and how Sherdog would go and put that shit on people's actual records, dude.
Yeah.
Have you seen Paul Herrera since any of this? It's so bizarre.
I have seen him. I've seen him. He's around. I saw him at a gladiator challenge. I don't know. He had a couple fighters or something. I can't remember what he was doing. But he's around.
That's wild. Well, your last amateur fight was against an incredibly tough Pat Healy on June 7th, 2003. The Healy brothers fought everybody.
They did, and they're tough as nails, both those guys. Yeah. Yeah, that was a great fight. He took me down, got me the lateral drop. I think maybe I was a little more active. I scored a lot from bottom, but that fight was fucking as close as they come.
Yeah, I don't think the Healy brothers get enough credit. I mean, if you look at his record, he's a 50 Fight Club member. Less than maybe 10% of his fights were easy.
Yeah, I know they're great wrestlers. I mean, BJ used to bring them out for his camps, bring them out to Hawaii.
Yeah.
So, don't you think, Chris? I mean, a guy like him, don't you think it's a little sad and fucked up, really, that he put in all those dues, gets to the UFC, and then the UFC kind of, I think he got cut. First they matched him up super tough, and then they cut him for smoking weed. It's like, don't you think that they treated him wrong, man? I don't know.
Well, shit ain't fair, man. If he were to do it now, it wouldn't be a big deal.
Yeah.
Then, if he would have been a Diaz brother and maybe sold more tickets, might not have worked out that way.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it is what it is.
Your early management in your career, there's a lot of questions in regards to it. Let's talk about your first actual pro fight, Otto Olson, July 26, 2003. This guy's an ADCC vet, a master at leg locks, and he's 2-0. He's also from Charlie's Combat Club.
Which means Matt Hume at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was one of there's only been a couple fights I thought for sure I was going to lose when I took the fight, and that was one of them because I had seen Otto fight. I knew who he was. I think he was second NCAAs out of Michigan too for wrestling.
Stud wrestler.
Yeah, I think he lost the cost check, and that was it. And he did, man. He kicked the shit out of me for 99% of that fight. He got me in his famous choke, and then choked me unconscious. Luckily, the rep was on the other side, so he didn't see my arm kind of drop, Joe Durabio, and he readjusted. I woke back up. And fuck, man, I don't even know, dude. You got to watch it. It's hard to believe. Like somehow I popped up to my feet, and he kind of went in for a double, and I caught him just right. Slept him. They were not happy in that building, man. He was the hometown crowd. The fight was after midnight, and they were served. They were pumping the alcohol. I just remember all the beers and cups and booze that went flying on me immediately. They had to sneak us out the back door.
Damn.
Yeah.
So Charlie's Combat Club, obviously not happy with you. Your next fight is actually Landon Showalter at a Team Quest fight night. I have to assume that this was a request on their end.
Yeah, I mean, they he wanted me. I fought Boyd Ballard twice, fought Landon, fought Otto, and that other kid. But yeah, Landon is another one of those guys, man. Tough as fucking nails, dude, and really, really good. And just fought. If you look at who he's fought a fucking who's who of that early MMA world, and all of them are like close fight losses. Yeah. Same thing with me. I remember he upkicked me in the first minute, broke my nose in the first minute of the fight. So the whole fight, I was choking on blood. My lungs were just full of blood. was coughing out blood for like a week after that fight. And then my eyes both swole shut. So I barely could see by the end of the fight. But yeah, you know, we I don't know if Matt did this because, you know, Matt's funny sometimes, but you know, third round, we bang it out all the way through the buzzer, and then we stop. I'm putting on my shirt, and Matt's like, "That fight was so exciting. Our timekeeper, who happened to be Randy for that fight, made a mistake. There's actually 1 more minute left in this fight." So I had to take my fucking shirt off, and we had to go fight 1 more minute. It was gnarly.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's the kind of shit that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah. No, and I think, you know, anything you blame on Hume, I think Hume definitely, everything you said, that he's a genius, etc. Otto Olson was one of his, you know, really close fighters. Like, for you to derail that train, that definitely had to hurt him, because the guy, he had taken him to Abu Dhabi, the guy had finished second. And I know, and he also kind of took Ivan Salivary and moved Salivary to you know, the second shelf, and moved Otto up, even though Salivary had paid a lot more dues. He was really high on Otto Olson. So after you beat him, I think he didn't like you at all.
Well, you know, yeah, no, Otto was on a roll. I don't know if he ever fought after he fought me. Maybe
fought
one
two more times.
How
two
many?
More times. Yeah,
2 more times. Fought 2 more times, and then then that was it.
So yeah, man, like crushing blow,
well,
you know.
To further that, I believe that whole crew of people lost a lot of sleep over you, and you can just tell just by looking at your record without even asking them, because they sent Boyd Ballard, who's 5-1-1. He's a heavyweight Greco-Roman wrestler. They made you fight him twice.
Yeah. I tell you, he's a tough guy too. That's when I learned my lesson. I talked about that the other day. That you gotta be sure when you try that knockout, walk away. I hit him and I thought he was out. I turned around, started celebrating. I looked down and I'm looking at my friends and they're pointing. But right when I turned around, he's like just getting up to come back at me. It's like, oh shit. So Sean O'Malley's gotta learn that one. It's only cool if you sleep him for good, you know?
You had mentioned you can't do that stuff anymore. That brings up Ryan Sleeman at WEC 8, October 17, 2003. He's out of Dragon's Lair MMA. He makes sure the announcer tells the audience that he is a psycho. And that fight was bonkers.
Wow, you did your research, man. I can't believe it. Yeah. That's another one where I had my fucking shirt on. We thought the fight was over.
Yeah.
Yeah, he robbed, you know, I had my cheater gloves on, the old kick skins. You remember those, Chris?
Yeah.
You remember the kick skins?
Yeah.
Like weighted MMA gloves. Totally illegal nowadays. But you know, I had those on and I looked across the ring and fuck, he's wearing them too. I was like, shit. And then he got it. He dropped me. Or it's like I had to take a knee, you know, and I got back up. He was coming straight at me. So I kicked him in the balls. And it's funny actually, because Herb used that fight as an example when I did the refereeing course, you know. Was it flagrant? Well, you got to remember the guy just got dropped. He doesn't have all his sense. You know what I mean? So we actually talked about that in the course. Long story short, he takes his injury timeout and he thinks it's going to be ruled flagrant, so he's going to win. And then when he finds out they're not going to rule it flagrant, which it probably was, but you know what? I was going to lose anyway. So what do you do? Then he starts trying to storm the ring again. He'd already left the cage. He's trying to storm back into the cage, and the whole crowd starts yelling, "Let him fight. Let him fight." So
the whole crowd was chanting, "Let them fight. Let them fight."
Yeah. So next thing I know, we're fighting again. We're fighting again. He ended up dropping me again. He hit me again, floored me, jumped on top, and I got an armbar. So I pulled it out somehow.
So Sleeman goes down for the 5 minutes. And then they say, okay, the fight's over, jumps up. He's trying to attack you now that the fight's over, where Rosenthal and Dean separate him, leaves the cage. The audience determines you guys fight again. And to me,
and they let it go.
That's 2 fights.
Yeah. Yeah. There was no commission back then. You know what I mean? Like, it was the Wild West.
Your fight with James Fanisher at Gladiator Challenge, it was a title fight. He's on a Chael Worsham's team. That also was not an easy bout.
No, tough guy. Good, really good kickboxer. Yeah. Yeah, I think he was beating me. I think what I had to do is I put him on the cage and then I stomped the shit out of his feet and just kind of beat on him on the cage a lot. But I got the W. I do remember a lot of people talk shit about the foot stomps, but I remember after that fight, he came up to me after the fight. He goes, "Hey, dude," and I'm like, "Yeah, what?" Because I was a tough guy back then. And he's like, "Look," and I looked down, and his feet were like black from me just stomping the shit out of his feet on the cage. They were probably all looked like they were all broken up to me if I remember right. So those foot stomps do work.
Do you still have the title belt from that night?
Actually, I just figured out where it is. Yeah, it's at my old roommate's house in Hawaii. I got about 7 belts sitting in that house. I have to go get those.
Are you aware?
You need to go get them. That's absolutely right.
Are you aware that same belt was awarded to Sonnen prior to your fight? And they needed the belt, so they used his and they stiffed him on his belt.
I mean, it's been years, but yeah, I remember hearing something about that. Yeah, he got jacked on his pretty cool belt, actually. Pretty cool belt.
Chris, in regards to MMA memorabilia, that's just not one belt. That's 2 persons' belts. It's double the value.
Yeah, and I what I remember? I remember flying home with Chael, and we were going through TSA, and I had it in my carry-out. I was like, I can't wait till it looks like a battle axe. I'm like, I can't wait, and it's made solid metal battle axe, kind of shape. And I'm like, I can't wait till they see this on the thing, And it went right through. Nobody said anything about the giant metal battle axe in my bag. We were like, oh, okay. All right.
Good to know. Nothing abnormal here. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah.
Well, you were also the inaugural title holder for the WEC against Mike Swick. He comes in at 5-0 out of AKA. He's got Frank Shamrock and Bob Cook in his corner.
Yep.
That was nuts.
Yeah, that was a special fight because Dana was sitting front row. Dana was sitting next to Chuck. So that was pretty cool. I was fighting in front of Dana White, so you can imagine at the time how pumped up I was. I love Swick, so I won't say anything about the fight, but it luckily went my way.
Well, yes, it was a knockout in the second round, but you had him at the end of the first round, and like the bell saved him.
Thank you.
I'm sure when you were in the Ultimate Fighter house, that was a frequently visited subject.
Yeah, we had a couple little hot moments regarding that fight. He wasn't happy about it, obviously. But he's a great guy. He's fucking crushing it.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's in Thailand, man.
Yeah, he's got that giant fucking complex in Thailand. every time I see him on Instagram, he's scuba diving or doing something amazing. Pretty good deal.
In 2005, you were nominated for one of the fights of the year when you fought Joe Doerkson at the Freestyle Fighting Championship. I think it was Rob Braniff and Lee Coates, their organization.
Yeah. What can you say? That was my my first loss, my first real loss. Lost the decision, but yeah, if you watch it, you know, Doerkson catches me in an armbar, and the commentator's like, "Oh, Leben's got to tap. His arm's gonna break if he doesn't tap. Leben's arm is definitely broken." You know, and I mean, you know how the elbow works. My elbow was bent the wrong way. Pretty substantial. If you watch the fight, you're like, oh my God. But I didn't tap, finished the fight. It turned out to be one of the, you know, a phenomenal fight. Backstage, both of us were getting stitched up. His ribs were broken. I was cut above both eyes. You know, and then long story short, I didn't use my arm for about the next 3 or 4 months, but I was able to use it for the next 13 minutes of that fight.
Damn.
2004. I might have had 2005.
Right now, so it's stuck there because of that fight. This one I can straighten out. This one I can't.
He had Duke Rufus in his corner too. Was heavily into the kickboxing, Muay Thai.
Yeah. Old school Duke Rufus.
And Doerkson was known for his groundwork from the old days. I mean,
he was the jiu-jitsu guy.
Yeah, totally. His triangles were what made him famous in Midwest. So yeah, no, yeah. That's a good fight. But it's not the worst guy to lose to in the world. But still, did you think at the time that was your first real loss, or were you just pissed off, or like what's your mindset? And who's coaching you at this point?
Robert Follis.
Okay.
Robert Follis was there. We were in Biloxi, Mississippi. You know, when you go back, you watch the fight. If I watched it now as a judge, you know, I'd say, yeah, he probably eked it out. It was a great fight, super exciting. But, you know, if you scored it, tit for tat, I think they probably scored it right. He probably won.
Okay. That's fair.
How did you handle that mentally?
Same way I ever handle a loss. I'm like, fuck, give me a fight right now. I need another fight.
Yeah. And the next one,
you rattle off after that. I shouldn't say rattle off, your very next fight, and that was nominated for 2004 Fight of the Year, which is an incredible honor. Benji Radach and Sport Fight 4 in your backyard, June 26, 2004.
Yeah, that was the other fight I thought I was going to lose because I trained with Benji. You know, Benji, another world-class wrestler. And he fucked me up and everybody else up in the gym, you know? So, yeah, and same thing for about 2 3/4 rounds. He fucked me up, you know? Another one where he swole my eyes shut right out the gate. So I only had one eye for the fight. And, I remember there was like, I don't know, a minute or two left. And I kind of said, fuck it, I guess in my head. I dropped my hands and just screamed. And then I just started winging punches and caught him with an overhand, put him against the cage, tried to knee him in the head so hard I fell down. He landed on top of me. I went for a shoulder lock. And then I felt like just the blood just pouring on over my back, you know, and if you see the tape, he's like pointing at his jaw to the ref, you know, and if you look, it's like that real dark blood. So yeah, I just caught him just right, broke his jaw real good.
Yeah, I think Radach has a lot of bad luck.
Yeah, definitely. And he was my buddy too. So that was tough because I remember, you know, he lost a lot of weight after that because he had to drink through a straw. You know, it was tough. It was a tough one.
Was Dana White at that fight?
No.
Okay, so the rumor was that the UFC had somebody there scouting Radach for the Ultimate Fighter. They saw what took place, and that's what cemented you getting into the Tough House.
Really?
That's the rumor.
Who's
That's
your
why we're
inside guy, man? How do you know this shit that I don't know?
He's the MMA detective. That's what.
Thank you.
I guess so. Fuck. Yeah.
Well, yeah, to put it, I mean, for the people that don't know, Radach was another product of like Radach. I think mainly would say Dennis Hallman was his guy, and that comes from the Matt Hume team. So you're talking about athletes with a lot of skill.
Yeah, he's part of that whole lineage. Yeah, because Holman's a Hume guy, you know, and then him and Radach were connected at the hip for years, training together. They were just a little further south. I want to say Olympia, Washington.
Yeah. And and Benji had an unfortunate story of having like a major record, something like 15-1. His only loss was to Sean Shirk, and he got into like a little grudge match with a guy who never fought before.
Oh God!
Took it into the ring. He got knocked
out. I saw
out.
that fight.
Was never the same. Were you at that?
I wasn't there, but I saw it the next day, and because everybody heard about it. It was one of Dennis Hallman's shows up there in Olympia, and something about like the dude that's dating Benji's ex-chick or some shit. They decide to fight. The guy. Now tell me, you probably know better than I do, but the guy's dad or something was a boxer. So this dude knew basically how to throw a cross, and that was it. And I remember watching the fight, dude. He just had that thing cocked and loaded. Benji came out throwing some leg kicks, dancing around, and boom, caught him. Yeah. Caught him, slept him, and he was so stoked. He jumped all the way out of the ring into the crowd, dude. It was crazy.
I think Lefevre. Was it Danny Lefevre?
Yeah.
What's that?
I think it was Danny Lefevre. I know I'm close on that name. I'm going for the top of my head.
Did he go on to do anything?
No, just once. He was like a barback. Electrician. I think he's an electrician.
Yeah. Electrician, bro. That's his story of his life right there, bro.
Yeah, and because the crazy thing about it is that it's an absurd looking fight because Benji is every bit of an athlete, and the other guy really isn't. The other guy's kind of like your average Joe, you know what I mean? It's like no disrespect to him, but he came out, like you say, maybe learned his cross from his dad and did the work, It's like if you don't know submissions, you're not gonna he fell into an armbar. You don't get submitted by somebody else, but you can get knocked out by somebody who doesn't know anything.
That's it. You know what I mean? He had a puncher's chance. And I kind of jokingly say, well, he's got a puncher's chance, but like literally that guy had one shot in hell and he got it. He hit it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
3-point from half court at the buzzer.
Yeah. Have you ever been approached to be a guest on the Joe Rogan Experience?
Nope.
How? That doesn't even make sense to me.
And let me just cut to this one because everybody says it to you. I don't think you will, but everybody goes, Chris, you should go on the Joe Rogan Experience. It'd be a great way to promote your new gym. It'd be a great way. I'm like, thanks, bro. I appreciate that. I'll go ahead and give Joe a call and tell him to schedule me right in there.
Send him a letter. Yeah. Yeah, I think I know they were kind of kicking the idea around, at least it was on the internet. I think that you would shine in that format for sure.
Well, I mean, it's the most listened to podcast in the world. It wouldn't be bad. I got him, it'd be great for me.
When did you know Team Quest was going in different directions?
I was gone already. I was at Team Quest for maybe 5 years. And then I moved up to train with Matt Hume. Well, I moved up because I was chasing a girl. Ended up training with Hume for a couple of years. And then from there to Hawaii. And was about the time I got to Hawaii that they started things started going down there.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. What was it like training with Matt Lindland?
Love Lindland, man. He's great. He's as dirty as they come. But you know what you're getting when you get Matt. You know what I mean? He's a great human being. He's a great person. Didn't have a problem beating the shit out of the younger guys in the gym. I remember sometimes you could tell Randy'd be like, I'd go around with Lindland, and one of the other newer guys would go around with Lindland, and then Randy'd look over and he'd be like, all right, Lindland, me and you next. That was kind of his silent justice. But yeah, no, nothing but good stuff to say about Lindland. I know some people, I know that there was some feelings there, from different people, different sides. I don't give a fuck, I'm great with Randy. I've always loved Robert, and me and Lindland are great.
Do you ever go train with Henderson at all in California, Temecula?
I do. I saw him maybe a month ago. Usually not to train. He now does the Dan Henderson fight night. So I refereed the show about a month ago. He does an amateur show at his gym.
Cool.
Oh. Yeah. All right, Miguel, we've had him for about an hour. We know he's at the beach. His phone's going to die.
It's sunburned, so yeah.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask you in closing, your thoughtful side. Say something nice about Robert Follis, because he affected a lot of people, and he's not with us anymore. I knew him from when he used to corner Chael and a bunch of other guys that fought for me. So nothing but respect for the man.
Thank you.
Why don't we close with that?
The thing about Robert is, and if anybody went to any one of his wakes, they would have noticed more people stood up there and talked about how that guy changed their life, how that guy saved their life, how they were going through some shit and Robert was there, and I'm no different. The worst parts of my life, the worst spots I've ever been in, like fucking suicidal. I won't get into the stories, but more than once, Robert is somehow known, and he's reached down and he's been able to reach out to me and pick me up. So much more than a coach. It just, it's heartbreaking that there was nobody there to do that for him. He's deeply missed. He took me from 0 fucking fights all the way to the UFC. I owe him everything. So, he lives on, I guess, in my heart, in my coaching. I know that when I coach, a lot of the one-liners that I use, a lot of the things I say are things that he said to me. So he does live on through that.
Let's plug your gym.
The training center right here in Pacific Beach, California. We're right in San Diego. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook. Just look up Chris Leben Training Center. We'll pop up. What is it? www.trainingcentersd.com. If you're on vacation, if you live in the area, you want to train for a day, a month, a year, hit me up. We're doing it all.
Awesome. Chris Leben, absolute gentleman, legend within the sport. We sincerely appreciate having you.
Thanks,
Awesome.
brother. Thank you,
guys.
Right? We got Chris Leben in the books. And that's another good one, huh?
Yeah. Leben is, it just perfectly described. You can give him all the advice you want. He's going to do whatever it is he wants to do. And then when he gets caught, he sincerely apologizes for not listening to you. And it's a legitimate apology, but he's still going to keep doing whatever it is he wants to do. I mean, he's like a bulldog. Like
Hey, that type A personality doesn't go away, right? And he's aging nicely with it too, because he's got a cerebral side now that's not just instinct and like caveman, some of his image was from early on, you know. So like, you know, the interview's on the beach. He took a little bit of time in the afternoon, taking care of himself, relaxing and stuff like that. And it's good that he's able to do that. And it's good that, you know, he's living that kind of life, because I think, you know, you pay a lot of dues in your youth there and he's paid dues beyond the cage, you know, and he's paid life dues. So it's great to see him, you know, doing well and happy.
Yes. So my thing is that he fought Brian Sleeman in the WEC and James Fanisher in Gladiator Challenge. And James Fanisher later became an American Gladiator. So I know Crowbar right now is yelling at us about how we missed that fact in the interview, when in fact, Crowbar, this is an Easter egg. I knew that fact, never dropped it. So take back whatever it is you've written already in the comment section on this interview. Thank you, Miguel. That's all I got to say. See, sometimes you got to kind of keep your listeners on their toes.
Crowbar, I love you. I appreciate you. You know, whatever you got going on with Mike is all good.
It doesn't involve you. Doesn't involve you. All right,
but I'm out. But Chris, thank you very much. It's in the books. We're going to load this.
Why don't we put a little extra at the end of this? If you're listening this far, there's even more. 2 days out of the hospital from suffering from COVID, Chris Leben joined us for an interview. We talked to him for about 45, 50 minutes, and it's about life, his ideas on spirituality, and what almost dying meant to him. He spent over a month in a hospital.
Yeah, it's been on the Clips channel, but a lot of people haven't seen it, and obviously on the podcast, the downloaders, the guys who follow us on iTunes and stuff, it's probably new material for you. And it's Chris Leben really at his rawest and coolest, the coolest Chris Leben I've ever seen. So thank you very much, guys, and enjoy. It's about 45 minutes coming up next.
Okay, welcome back, fans. Thank you for joining. Thank you for liking and sharing, because I know you're going to. We don't even have to ask you to. I'm just thanking you in advance. Special guest today. Very happy with this one. This is fantastic. Not only one of the most notable UFC guys of our time. Great comebacks, great fights, exciting style. I think dude took a couple bonuses away from me. I'm still not happy about that. But anyway, hey, this guy if you watch him on, watch him his Instagram the other day. This guy just cheated death, probably just being such a great athlete and in great shape, probably saved his life. Did some bare knuckle at the same time I did. Welcome, the one and only Chris Leben. How the hell you doing, my man? Look, glad to see you doing all right.
Yeah, man, I'm among the land of the living, so you know what? I'm pretty stoked, dude. I'm doing well.
I mean, I didn't realize that people hadn't watched how close to death you actually came. Can you kind of tell that to people?
I mean, I thought it was done, you know, for sure. You know,
wow.
And you know, like I always tell people, it's kind of funny because you know the doctor's like, you know, I don't know what it is here in America. They don't want to tell you you're dying, but you know you're fucking dying. You know. You know, and then especially, you know, when you go on that respirator, it's like
innovative,
whatever you want to call it. It's not good, bro. It's like you're coherent. You're not, you know, like you're there, and it's like, all right, say goodbye. We're about to turn your brain off. Might not turn back on. So, you know, it's a trip, because I'm sure you guys know that the odds, you know, they're far less than in your favor. You know, I read different.
It's like 80% or higher.
It's about 80%. It's about 80% once you go on the respirator. It was, from what I understand, it was earlier. It was like 88, but now they've got it a little better. They've figured out some things. So it's about 80% now. So, but that's still not, you know, that you're not stoked at that situation.
No.
4 out of 5 are dying. You know. Yeah.
So it was a very.
Now
you learn a lot. You learn a lot about yourself when you come that close.
Even before that, you were just saying basically like for a day or maybe 2, you were just like struggling sitting there. I mean, it had to be a terrible feeling just be sitting there struggling. Like not kind of gasping for breath for a couple of days, just not able. I mean, you had to be thinking, geez, you had to be exhausted just trying to live.
Well, I mean, I know that there's God, there's so many people that have gone through it and made it or not made it, but gone through that suffering. And I'll be honest with you, man, it was exhausting. It was like fighting a choke for 2 days, like in and out of, just not being able to get air. Just, I can't talk. People could talk. I could hear them, but I couldn't. I could try to talk back, but then I couldn't breathe. All I could do was, they had this thing on me that, like, as soon as I'd open my mouth, would just pure oxygen. It's hard. That's like kind of the last thing before the respirator. And eventually, when that wasn't working, they were like, "We gotta put you under." But those 2 days exhausted me, and then it was like 2.5, 3 days on the respirator. Then it was like another 2 days of fighting real hard before I kind of turned the corner. So it was pretty gnarly. It was in and out of consciousness, kind of.
Did you get any visuals or anything like that? Did you maybe kind of drift in between dimensions, is what they refer to it as?
Yeah, man, I had some weird shit happen to me, dude. I mean, I could tell you guys the story, and well, the first one was, I think a lot of people, when it comes to God, I believe in a power outside of myself. I've never,
of course,
I've read a lot of books on Buddhism. I always dug that shit, and, I've always kind of been open, whatever works for anybody kind of a thing, I'm in recovery, and my sponsor is like, first off, he's kind of an asshole. He's got a chip on his shoulder. You'd never know it, but this guy's like a fucking soldier for God, bro. He's like the holiest fucking person on the planet. And he's like, he's fucking baptizing people. He's marrying people. And
he's saving souls, Chris.
So I'm like,
that's what he's
doing. A fucking dude. I'm telling you, bro. Yeah. Anyways, one thing I realized is the power of prayer. That shit is real. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you what happened. They put me under, and they also had drugs in me, so I was in paralysis. But I had some last things to talk about my child's trust that I hadn't taken care of. And so somehow I was like fighting my way. Like, they figured out, they have you handcuffed and shackled to the bed so you don't pull the tubes out. They got it. Yeah, so you're secured, but they're shooting me up with fentanyl, and then I forget what the other one is called, but they're getting me as, they were giving me the maximum amount of fentanyl allowed, according to my, and they figured out I was still able to write with my left hand. So they were putting paper under my left hand, and I was writing these coherent letters of what I needed to have taken care of. Like, I remember them putting me under. I remember being under it. It was just black and dark. And it was almost like trying to swim my way up to the top of this void to try to reach into consciousness to write a little bit, about what I needed to have happen with my child if I died. And, it was just, I couldn't have done it for myself. It was, for him. And then once I got that out, it was my old lady and my buddy was there. I said, call Tommy and tell him to say a prayer, So they called my buddy, so he was on speaker and I could hear him. Keep in mind, I'm supposed to be unconscious, but I wasn't. I was in paralysis, but I was but I was still there. Yeah, it sucks, bro. Can you imagine
That's horrible, man.
And black, I couldn't see. I was in like a black void, but I could hear and I could write.
And would you also go to sleep as well, or were you perpetually in that same state?
I was in and out. I'm not sure. I think this was like 2 days. I came back and I was writing, but to me, it didn't feel like I was under for 3 days. It felt like less. So I must have like faded in and out. Ultimately, what happened is Tommy said this prayer, and at that point, I kind of let go. I had gotten what I needed to get out. Chris knows, listen, man, you watched a lot of fights. I don't care who you are. You get hit enough times, you go like this, and I that's just the way it is. You can only suffer so much. And I think the soul leaves the body, and I think that's what happened. And that's what needed to happen. I left it up to God at that point. He said that prayer, and I left it up to God. I said, I'm going, and let myself go. And then, according to my buddy who was there, he's like, you fell back. I thought you were dying right there. You just went limp. And then 15 minutes later, they were pulling the tube out and waking me up. So I don't know. Wow. Something changed immediately in my body in the readings. And then they decided to wake me up. And then the next 2 days were, fighting for my life. And I had an out of body experience, which is pretty crazy. I remember I fell asleep. I was floating above my body, but I could only get about like maybe 8 or 10 feet away from my body. So like, here's my body, here's the consciousness. I'm floating around, right? There was like a cord or something like connecting me to, like, I couldn't get away, but I also couldn't get back in my body. Like, I'm trying to get back in my body and I can't. I'm trying to get away and I can't. And I'm floating up in the corner of the room, and the nurse comes in. She comes in with another nurse behind her, and she goes, "Oh no, Chris." And I kind of turned my awareness towards my body, and they put a white sheet, they covered me in a sheet, like I'm dead, and I'm like, yeah. Fuck, dude. So now I'm floating next to my body. It's got this sheet over me. I started thinking about all those books because I'm totally conscious, right? So I started thinking about all these Buddhist books that I read. And I'm like, fuck, man, I don't want to be reincarnated as a water buffalo or something if I wasn't that good. You know what I'm saying? Like I like the idea of karma and shit, and then I was
that
like,
head. The head of yours.
I have all these friends, and a lot of them are they're Christian, you know what I mean? And I love their strength and their spirituality. And I've been to church maybe, I don't know, I can probably count it on one time. I was going to fucking church, right? And then I started thinking like, fuck, I can't get back in my body. I don't want to be a ghost and be floating around this hospital forever either, So, I said some fucking shit. I said, Jesus Christ, blah, blah, blah. And fucking next thing I know, I turn my head and I look, and there's like 4 nurses over here. They're like scrambling, working on me. And then I lost consciousness again. So I don't know what happened, but I popped back in my body. They were all doing something. Maybe to save me. I don't know. I don't know what happened. And then I went back out. And, so what does that mean, man? I don't know. Fuck, I definitely.
We should all be grateful, man. Grateful to have you
That's
here
with us. It's just about gratitude. And for me, it's about maybe, getting to know, building a relationship with my higher power, and maybe a little bit of church, I think for me, I did, I'm at home, but I've been doing church online on Sundays the last couple of weeks, and just appreciating life, is what, and celebrating and being grateful for my ability, the fact that I'm fucking here, man, and if that's what the man upstairs had to do to get me to pay attention, it fucking worked. You know what I'm saying? Like, man. People can take whatever they want, from that. Like, that's my experience of what happened to me. I know it sounds fucking crazy, but that's what happened. I'm just telling you.
You just gotta hope that I would think you just appreciating everything that's happening every day right now, but you just gotta hope that feeling stays. You know what I mean? And you don't, like, in 2 years you're kind of like, oh yeah, get back to being busy. You gotta take a break and be like, just appreciate everything. Hopefully that stays. You know what I mean? It's easy to get right back in the grind and just doing what you do, but hopefully you never forget what happened. You know what I mean? And always think, man, I'm so appreciative for this.
I think that's so important for me. I feel like in a lot of ways, I traded one addiction for another. I traded this you know, it used to, you know, I used to unwind with, I always was a workaholic. I trained my ass off. But when I was done training, man, I shut my brain down. I used substances to turn it off. And once I couldn't turn it off, I just worked nonstop. And the way I deal with stress is I just push myself harder. Well, if I'm worried about something, if I just work harder, and you know what? I carried all the weight. I carried all the weight on myself, and I never let go. You know, and when I look back, you know, and if you do believe in something, man, you know, God's got your back, dude. He's not gonna let you down. You know, like if you trust in that and you don't worry about the fucking little shit, bro. Because you know what? You always get through there. I always somehow put food on the table. I always make it happen. If I look back at my fucking track record, I'm 41 years old. I've never failed to put food on the table. But why am I worried about it now? Why do I think this time it's going to be different? Something always fucking works out, you know? And we forget how many times, you know, God has had our back, you know? And so I tripped out on that for a while. And man, then I tripped up.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say it's a very powerful start, man. Thank you. But just for the people who are going to be listening to this interview, how long have you been home? How long has it been since you've been in the hospital? It's a very short time. You're still wired.
2 days. 2 days. Yeah.
2 days.
2 days. Yeah. Yeah. I'm down about 35 pounds. My legs are shot just from walking. I didn't walk I was in the hospital for 35 days, you know, and I didn't walk at all. I was stuck in a bed with tubes all over me. So a lot of atrophy.
Yeah. I was wondering how that is it just hard to do anything? Are you feeling weak or how's that?
The muscles, man, my legs are shot, bro. I feel like I did like the hardest leg workout ever. And all I did was try to walk around the kitchen a little bit while I'm making some food.
Man, I don't think people realize when like atrophy, how quickly that sets in. You don't do anything for a couple of days, you lose a lot of your mass. It's unreal how much you lose. And laying in bed like that, man,
it's not good for nobody, bro. Being laying and stuck in bed like that, it's not healthy, not for a day, not for a week, not for a month. You know, it's just. But you know, I'll tell you one thing though, man. That fucking grateful that Western medicine too. Those motherfuckers saved my life. You know, there's some high tech shit, dude. That they had 12 different tubes coming out of my body. I counted, you know, and I was just gnarly, right? I was like, I don't get why people are so worried about getting abducted by aliens. You get one tube, man. Go to the fucking hospital, bro. They had fucking tubes stuck everywhere in me, dude.
Aliens are just more efficient at it.
Yeah, I had them going in here, and then they came down into my fucking heart. They were feeling balloons up in my heart. Then
you have the hole in your neck too, correct?
No, they went in through I didn't have a trach, but I had they went in through the jugular to go into my heart. And then they also went in through here and went into my heart with a PICC line and my wrist. And then, you know, obviously a catheter and fucking IVs and fucking everything else, man. It just adds up. You can see I have to wait for the oxygen to hit if I'm trying to talk too much. I run out of breath. So
how long do you think the oxygen? No idea.
You know, again, doctors talking probabilities, not percentages. You know, they'll never give you a fucking straight fucking answer, dude. But from what I've read, there'll be some permanent damage, you know. Maybe I'll get 70% back. Maybe in a year. Maybe I'll get 80% back, 90. I don't know. Probably 70 to 80 is what I would guess from what I've read. You know what? But that's fucking fine, man. When you're that close to, who cares? What's losing 20% of your lung capacity? I'm 41. My career is over. I just want to be able to coach. You know what? And if I can go out and do an old man jiu-jitsu tournament, I only need 70% of my lungs to do that. I can do it with 50. Fuck. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, 50% Chris Leben beat 90% of the people, you know?
That's my goal, man, is within the year, I want to compete in jiu-jitsu at least. And just focus on running my gym, you know, training. you know, so, you know, I recently opened, you know, a new gym, and, you know, that kind of probably part of what the catalyst to how this happened is I was carrying it all on my back.
Yeah.
Turns out shit's been running great while I've been in the hospital. Turns out I'm fucking one spoke in the whole wheel, you know, and I thought I was the whole fucking thing. Pretty cocky, you know. I thought, you know, but everybody's doing their job and it's going well. So
now, I mean, on a different note, real quick, I've done something a few times and it hasn't been for lung problems, but have you ever thought about getting like a hyperbaric chamber? I know that's supposed to really help heal and get different oxygen to different parts of the body.
You know, I heard about that actually, because a couple people wrote me about that. I have never done it, but I'm going to. There's some places in San Diego. So as soon as my oxygen gets low enough that I can travel, you know, I'm gonna go do that. You know,
I recommend it highly. I've done it when I've had injuries and they're like, it's gonna take 4 months to heal, and I healed in like 2. So I think it really helps out. That's my one recommendation. I think you should try.
I will absolutely. Good. I'll try that and I'll let you know how it goes, man, because, you know, the literature, the ARDS, there is one, there's no treatment when you're in the hospital. All they're doing is trying to keep you alive long enough for your body to heal itself. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Yeah, it's like when you smash your knee, man, there's nothing you can do. You just got to put ice on it till the swelling goes down. When your lungs swell up like that and all, you know, and you can't get air, there's nothing they can do but just keep you alive until your body heals itself.
Heal. That makes sense.
So it felt like you were drowning then. Am I correct?
Yeah.
That's fun. All right. So, you know, Chris, you said you're in recovery. Miguel and I also are in that same boat as yourself.
Nice.
When you were out doing crazy stuff, did you ever eat like mushrooms or anything like that?
Did it all, man. I've done it all. Yeah.
Was
it
similar?
DMT, all the fucking, you know, acid, mushrooms, fucking weird fucking chemical psychedelics. I've done them all.
Was it similar?
No.
Really?
No, not at all. Not at all. The drug-induced coma was horrible because it was dark. It was black. And I was paralyzed. And it was an opiate, you know? It was opioids. And I don't know if you ever fucked with opioids, but when you're that heat, you're in that darkness, bro. You're just
gross.
Lost in the void. In the void. And it was like it really made me think it's too bad in this country because I mean, we, you know, whenever people are dying and we dope them up so much, you know, and it's like, maybe that's not needed, you know, the last couple hours with their family, you know, like that's one thing that really drove me nuts. It's like, I wanted to be conscious, you know, if I was going to die, I wanted those last couple minutes, you know, of course. And I think in a lot of hospitals, we take that away from people. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't want anybody to suffer. Make them comfortable, but not. I mean, now obviously I was an extreme case. You know, they were paralyzing me with drugs. You know, but I think a lot of people I've seen that pass, they really overdo it. I don't know if that's a good idea. But then also the second experience that I told you about was there was no haziness. There was no weird feeling in my body. There was no disattachment from reality in any way. It was very, 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 very fucking real. It was like I'm sitting here talking to you real. Like I wasn't high. I was fucking clear,
no dimensions or anything like that, huh?
No dimensions. No, and I've had some weird shit like I believe in multiple dimensions and some weird shit like that too that are overlapping. You know, obviously that's the leading theory in science today. You know, string theory, and we have all these overlap. You know, sure, different vibrations and all that shit. That's great, and I believe that beings can live on all sorts of fucking vibrations and levels. But check it out. I live here on this one, man. And you know what I mean? Like, and I already did that shit. You know, like for me. I feel like, in some cases people use psychedelics and they can be like a springboard to get them. Like, I don't want that, man. I want to be present. And I want to be, I think part of evolving and growing as a human being is, you know, being comfortable with where you're at, and being able to be there for humanity and your fucking kids and your family, you know. And my experience too was very present. I guess that's the biggest difference that I could, that's the word I would pin on it.
What about regret? Did you have regret when you were there?
Not in the way that you would think. I spent a lot of time thinking, especially before I went under, because I couldn't talk, you know, about life in general. And, you know, it's like everybody tells you, man, it's not how hard you hustled. It's not what kind of car you were driving, you know. What blew me away was the support of my friends and family that came around. They took care of everything for me, took care of my wife and my kid, you know, and you know, my child, you know. It was real hard because of COVID. I wasn't able to see him before I went under, you know.
Oh.
You know, and you know, every fucking second, you know. I mean, the little fucker can annoy the shit out of me sometimes, but as soon as he leaves, I miss him. It's the weirdest fucking thing, you know. You know, 1 second away from him, and I just want him back around me, you know, and you know, that's all I care about now is camaraderie, and you know, and for me, you know, like that's what martial arts was always about. That's the only reason I ever fucking did good was because, you know, I got through high school because I liked the camaraderie of the wrestling team. I was part of a team, I was part of a family, and I didn't have that at home. Mm-hmm. And then I joined Team Quest, and you know, again, I was part of a team, and I had, you know, the banter back and forth, the fucking healthy competition, you know, the drive, you know, and I think that's what kept me alive, you know. And when I look back at my life, it's all those relationships that I appreciated.
Man, you know, you're talking about relationships right now. Like, I feel like the older I get, the more I realize whether business or like any part, I mean, that's kind of what it's all about, you know, just relationships and the things you develop. That's what gets you good things or bad. And remember, looking Steve Jobs on his deathbed, he was talking about, yeah, all that money, all the time he spent, it was wasted, a lot of it worthless. And he just cared more about the things you're talking about. And he was one of the most successful guys ever. And that stuff was all meaningless to him, really. He said, man, I wish I'd have spent more time doing this, more relationship building and stuff like what you're saying is amazing.
You know, and it's funny because, and I think particularly out here in California, there's one thing that I've never really, but I've been sucked into is this, it's like this hustle culture, you know. Now you got like this fucking David Goggins, and you got this fucking Gary Vaynerchuk, you know, and it's like, you know, what if you know, Jocko Wilkins, what if you set your alarm fucking half an hour earlier, got up, read a book, fucking did some kettlebell lifts, then fucking went surfing before you hit your fucking jujitsu, then you're gonna pound your protein shake, run 6 miles, then I'm gonna go out and crush him and make 10 business calls before 10 o'clock. That's not living, bro. That's not living life. Like this little bit of fucking coffee I'm drinking right here is fucking so good to me. You know, I'm like enjoying it. And when you do, like, don't get me wrong, work, but manage your time. And then because I see these people, and this is what I was doing. What happened is I was trying to do that, and I was sleeping 3.5, 4 hours a night, and I was fucking spinning in circles, man, and getting nothing fucking done. You know, in all reality, everything. I was trying to do too much. There was too much on my plate, and everything was suffering because of it.
Because that's me to a T, man. I always tell people I'm pathetic, man. I used to think it was like the situation, but it's me, man. No matter what, when I have a second, I fill it with 3 things, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm doing anything well, but about 10 things half-assed, and it sucks. I just like doing so much. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I got too many irons in the fire. I do so much shit. I don't know. It's oh, my wife gets so mad. What's wrong with me? I just can't stop trying to do those things I love, and I can't pick them. You know what I mean? I'm pathetic.
It is hard because I'm the same way, and that's what I realized I have to change. Is I've got to say no sometimes, because it's a balance, so that I can be present and I can give 100%. When I'm with my family, I need to give 100% to my family. When I'm at the gym, I need to give 100% at the gym. You know what I mean? When I'm doing whatever it is I'm doing, when I'm reffing, I need to be giving 100% to that. I can't be worrying about fucking making calls when I'm driving up to fucking do a reffing event in LA and where my fucking wife and kid are going and then going to meet them. And, it's just like, you gotta tap the brakes every once in a while.
I feel like the more I do like that, I just feel like next thing I know, a year goes by, and then 2 years, I'm like, I'm making myself so busy, life goes too fast, and I don't get to enjoy it. I know what you mean, man.
There you go. Well, you heard my advice, man. Tap the brakes, bro. Slow it down, and just remember, just put present and try to. I mean, I don't know, bro. I'm only a couple days out of the hospital, so how well I'm gonna do with this, I don't know.
So Chris Leben. So
yes.
In essence, I think the biggest thing that you're going to have to deal with later on in life is you're not a retirement guy. You're a worker. You put the work in, like whatever it is that you can't naturally get to, your hard work brings you to the level that you need to be at. Chris Lytle's the same way, Miguel and myself. I don't think any of us in this conversation are capable of one day going, yeah, I'm just going to go sit on the beach and watch the sunset for the rest of my life until I die. It's not in our blood. It's just prioritizing.
Yes, it's prioritized. Yeah, exactly. Trust me. I got a lot of work, man. I got a lot of stuff I still got to do. I made a lot of calls today, and I love it, and I do. But after I'm done with you guys, I'm turning my phone off and I'm making fucking dinner for the family.
My man, there you go. See, that's the thing. I just got to start prioritizing like that. Like, make time no matter what. Like, if you prioritize your stuff, and you gonna find time to do the things you really want and make it happen. And set everything else out, it'll still be there. Don't worry about it.
That's it, man. Like my phone is gonna continue to go off all fucking night. It doesn't matter if I look at it or not. You know what I mean? And I can let it wind me up. Or but I'm done after I'm doing this with you guys. And then my day is done,
Miguel, you're muted.
Miguel, we can't.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was just going to say, we could continue in this vein, which is great. Or we can really start kind of the celebration.
Let's let him Chris, so we can get him out of
Chris
here.
Chris and his career celebration is what we're here for, right?
Now I think we're going to do this almost like a Tarantino movie. We're going to start at the end. We're going to go the beginning into the middle or something. You know what I mean? So you want to start with the bare knuckle, didn't you, Mike? Is that what we're doing?
No, it's Miguel, but like Chris Leben, are you okay to do this? Because it's
man. Yeah, I got about another 20 minutes or so.
Okay. Perfect.
Whatever you want to do, Mike, up to you.
20, 30 minutes.
Miguel, I don't have his bare knuckle record in front of me. Why don't we just do his amateur record?
We'll do some amateur fight stuff. There we go.
Yeah, let's talk.
Okay, one thing, Chris, one thing we always like to do is find out how you got from high school growing up to the fighting where you were. So you talked about wrestling. What other sports did you do? How did you get involved with the fight world?
Okay, so it's funny because in my early years, like, spite, I think, is probably what was my number one driving factor. The fact of the matter is, man, I didn't play no sports.
Really?
I was I grew up in a meth house, and my mom didn't fucking put me in sports, and I basically ran the streets wild, and I had a couple buddies. We skateboarded a lot. I skateboarded a lot. I got into high school, and this fucking jock tripped me in front of these girls, man, named Micah, and he was on the fucking wrestling team. So I joined the wrestling team late, my freshman year, wrestled year round that year. Sophomore year, when he was a senior, I ended up beating him for his varsity spot. He quit the team, and that's how I got into combat sport. I actually know that's not true. That's how I started wrestling.
Okay.
I also, for some reason, even being a punk skateboarder, I don't know why, I would catch the bus across town and box in middle school. So, I went to the rec center because, we were low income. It was free for me, so I would go in and started boxing in 7th and 8th grade. Wow. And then wrestling in high school. And I don't know why. I don't know what fucking none of my friends did. I have no clue what possessed me to decide to start boxing.
How did you do in wrestling in high school?
I did pretty good. I think, varsity my sophomore year, won more than I lost. Junior did good. Took third in districts, won my division, Portland, about 12 high schools or whatever, districts, and then lost early at state. But, I won probably 85% of my matches my senior year.
Nice.
So
okay. So I don't want to touch his fights this interview. Let's do that down the road. But all right, so we had Chael Sonnen on, and he was explaining like it's a rough room, some of the greatest fighters in the world, you being one of them. And it seemed as if everybody in the gym, according to him, were getting phone calls made for them by like Dan, Matt Henderson, Randy Couture, and Chael was always kind of left out. Is he like more of a gamer in the cage than he is in the practice?
Chael's the toughest guy. Chael's the toughest guy in the practice room on the planet.
He is.
Wow.
He fucks everybody up in the practice room. Yeah. Chael, honestly, man, I mean, with his fights, I love the guy. So God, I hope he doesn't get mad at me for saying this, but he's had some bad luck losses where he's winning 90% of the fight and he fucking loses.
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck, what the fuck, man? God damn, you can't do that,
But he also fought to higher levels than he was athletically or his ability. He fought higher than his ability, in my opinion.
You're wrong.
Really?
Bro. His fucking athletic ability. That dude had for Portland State, he had every for his weight powerlifting record for fucking bench squat. The
Really?
dude is a freak. He's a dude trying to stop his double is impossible. And it's completely wrong because he's left-handed. He fucking just barrels through, but he just fucking charges, and it's damn near impossible. Yeah, no, he's a freak athlete, dude, for sure.
Wow.
But here's the thing with Chael, he's also the laziest dude on the planet, and he has that. Sometimes freak athletes, man, they don't want to do any drilling. They don't want to learn anything new. He just wanted to come in and fucking hit his rounds and go home. That's it. That's the way he trained.
Let me ask you about Chael. Did you see him? You knew him maybe before he became a big personality, and then after he became a big talk about that transition.
Well, we used to sit. Chael was hard. He was better, and it was hard to get him fights because he was a wrestler. Everyone wants to see strikers back in the day. And we fought on several of the same. I remember fighting when he fought Babalu on the Hit Paul Herrera's Hitman show, before it was even legal to fight.
It was the movie script show.
We had to say we were making a fucking movie, and I remember, Chael and I used to always sit and we talk about what we were going to say afterward. He got a lot better at it than me, but we always kind of rehearse what our our lines are going to be, and and then he really became a black belt at talking shit. He really developed
best in the world.
But if you watch him, he developed those, like anything. He developed those skills over time. He really did.
Douglas Crosby helped him quite a bit too.
And I have a theory. I don't know if it's true or not, but you guys remember Ted DiBiase?
Oh yeah, come on, bro.
$1 Million Man.
You guys remember the $1 Million Man? Isn't it kind of reminds you of Chael? I think he's drawing a little bit from Ted DiBiase sometimes.
Ted was just a big fan of his. Is that what it is? This is what I would say if I were Ted. Is that maybe how?
I think a little bit. I think a little bit sometimes, man. But yeah.
Okay, so besides that, man, that room had to be unbelievably tough. Tell us about the room, Team Quest, man. Geez, you guys had Pride champions, UFC champions, just some of the best fighters in the world all came at that place.
We had Matt Lindland, we had Randy Tour,
we
had Evan Tanner, we had
Chael
Sonnen, we had Ed Herman, who's still in the fucking UFC.
Yeah.
We had me, we had Ryan Schultz,
Dan Henderson,
Sokaju coming up, all the guys Dan would bring up from the South. Then people come in and go, at that time, there's always somewhere in the country there's a super gym. And we were that gym at that time, at that era. And if you weren't one of the core group, we had guys coming over from Japan. We had people coming over everywhere, so it was a push. And then, as you know, Chris, back in the day, we didn't train like people train today. We didn't train like it was a room. Sorry, I'm breathing. It was a room full of wrestlers trying to run an MMA practice like a fucking wrestling practice. You cannot run an MMA practice like a wrestling practice. With
just hard the whole time. Hard, probably.
Because you go hard when you wrestle.
Yeah.
Every day you go hard. And so that's what we did.
Yep.
And yeah, man, it was I wish I could get a hold of some of the old videos of that practice room. There's some good stuff.
How was the sparring? I mean, obviously, I feel like you handled yourself well. Who was it? Somebody, I can't remember. Might have been Chael. I was listening to something today said he probably could count the number of rounds he saw Dan Henderson win on one hand. He didn't do great in the room, but he obviously dominated when he fought. But, I mean, how did you do in there? Were you handling your own? I mean, it had to be such a tough room, just sparring and everything.
Oh, Dan beat the shit out of me twice. The first time I sparred Dan, I had fought on Saturday night for Chael show, FCFF, and I got loaded. And I told Dan I was going to kick his ass come Monday, That motherfucker broke my nose. Both my eyes were swollen shut. In a 5-minute round, beat me up so bad, and I wouldn't stop fighting him. That after the 5-minute round, Randy stopped the whole practice, circled everybody up, and he started just talking like, listen, if you're the baddest motherfucker in the room, you don't got to beat up a kid to show him your tough. And if you think you're some tough fucking kid, you don't need to be trying to go against the toughest guy. He was obviously talking to the two of us, but he was talking to the whole room. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Randy.
That was one time. And actually it happened again. He broke my sternum another time. He fucking stuck his knee and just fucking drove his knee right into my sternum from guard.
Oh,
so yeah, just a dick move. Like, but yeah, I still see Dan every once in a while. I referee. He's got his gym in Temecula. He does a show, and I'm usually up there refereeing, so I still get to see him, and we're good friends.
That's awesome.
What about?
Go ahead, Miguel.
What about the old legend from those parts, Rico Ciparelli? Did you ever get your hands on him or get the role with him?
Not a lot, man. He was more with Dan, down south and stuff. So, I mean, I know phenomenal fucking wrestler, but I didn't train with him a ton.
Okay.
So Chris Leben, in essence, what we usually do here is we call it a deep dive, where we take a microscopic look at your career and we talk about just all the highs, some of the lows that come with it, and the finish line. And your career, dude, is pretty impressive to look at. And I know right now it's probably not the time to do something like that, but in a month or two, I hope we can revisit this conversation and really kind of dig deep into yourself and your career.
Well, yeah, let me know, man. I feel bad because I had to cancel. I remember I was looking back through my text with Chris and I texted him, yeah, man, I can't do it today. I got COVID. And then everything went to shit after that, man. Because we were actually booked a while ago, and I ended up testing positive for COVID. My throat hurt. And then
I thought you were doing all this stuff to fake it so you didn't have to do the interview. But I guess not. That's a good one.
Yeah. It's actually not hooked up to anything. It's just hanging down here.
Spent 2 weeks of trolling just to get out of our interview. That's good.
That's the first, but hey, man, I just love getting to hang out with you at Bare Knuckle. Hopefully you can make it back there soon. And man, I'm just so happy you're all right, man. It was just, when I heard that, I was like, what the hell's going on, man? I usually I'm ignorant, and I always say, man, it's hurting unhealthy people, man. I mean, you're healthy, you know what I mean? So it just threw me off. I was like, he's too big and strong to go through, so my ignorance, I don't know. I didn't get it.
And I'm the same way, man. I got COVID back in July and it rolled right off my back, so I was like, well, fuck, I'm not getting vaccinated now because fucking,
me too.
That was no big deal. And I got the COVID again and I beat it really quick. And then this fucking complication due to the COVID, you never, you know what I mean? Like, it was just a perfect storm. It was just a perfect storm. And, you know, when you spread that out over the fucking whole country and world, man, it ends up being a lot of people have been in my shoes. I'm not the only one that's had to go through this, you know.
No,
a lot of people have had to deal with this. So it is what it is.
Man, excellent.
Well, man, hey, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And like you said, get healthy, get well. Hey, if there's anything any of us can do for you, man, let us know. I mean, we'd love to help out in any way. Do you have any idea? Are you going to be able to come back to any bare knuckle stuff soon? Or,
you know, I hope so, man. I think, in a month or so, I'll be off this air and I'll be able to, hopefully commentate, get back to repping.
Yeah,
I'm excited to get back in my gym. If I could plug my gym, the training center in San Diego. Check us out on Instagram, training center _SD. You can link to it through mine. If you got anybody comes to San Diego, man, and they want to stop by and train with me, I'm pretty much there all day. Stop by, check us out.
I'm going to come by in San Diego here sometime. My daughter lives out in LA now. I was out there a few months ago. So I'm going to head, next time I come, I don't like LA. I'm coming to San Diego.
That's the best part about living in San Diego is you can go to LA and then you can come home the same night.
Exactly, man. A 2-hour drive, something. I love it.
Not too bad. It's not too bad. Yeah.
And we're probably all too old for that 2 more hours to Mexico. So
yeah,
Tijuana, I'm out.
Might as well just keep going, huh?
Not today, anyway, man.
Chris, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, man. Great to meet you. And hopefully in a month or so we catch up and just go fight by fight your career early days, because that's our bread and butter, brother.
Awesome.
Let me know. All right. Thank you guys. You guys have a good one. Talk to you later.
Check out the full interview on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms.